One of the most painful things to experience is believing that you are on your right timeline at one period in your life and you can't figure out how to quantum jump back to the best reality. I'm going to break down why nothing wrong has happened, how you can quantum jump back to your highest timeline that you may have been on earlier in your life, and why everything that's happening to you is actually happening for you. I'm Alyssa, and I remind you that this timeline is optional. I thought previously that I had been on the wrong timeline for 10 to 15 years, which is really scary because early in my life, there were so many things that were almost matching up, almost dream career, almost soulmate timeline. It kept feeling like things in my life were really popping. And it wasn't until a couple years ago I actually got back onto that timeline, connected with a guy I met 20 years ago that I'm now married to, living in my dream home, have a career that I really love, really become the person that I'm meant to be. But I used to look back on those 10 to 15 years as kind of regretful, and you might be feeling this way, and I'm going to explain why this is not a bad thing at all. There's usually a period in our life where we feel the most magnetic. For you, it might have been high school. For me, it was absolutely early 20s. Money was coming really easily. I was getting a lot of auditions, not booking jobs, but getting so many opportunities. I felt like I could kind of manifest the things that I wanted quickly, but they would also fall apart because I didn't have the vibration to hold them. And I look back now on my life and I see that there were so many parallels that I had been close to that timeline, but why did it fall away from me then? And you might be feeling that too. It might have been when you were a kid, it might have been in high school, it might have been in your early 20s. You might be in your early 20s. If you are still haunted by desires that never seem to manifest, but you felt like you were very close to them at some period in your life, it is because you are meant to have that. If you desire something, it is because there's a parallel timeline version of you already living it. And yes, there is a version of you that was on that timeline and somehow held the identity, the vibrational frequency, and had the belief systems to stay in that timeline. And so there is a version of you that's living that, and that's the timeline you're wanting to quantum jump to. But why it can feel like you touched the correct highest timeline earlier and then you were pulled away from it was because life was giving you the things you needed to be able to stay in that frequency and actually live in that timeline and be the version of you that you came here to be. There are many reasons why we can't hold frequencies. A lot of it is the emotions that you're feeling. You might have had childhood trauma, you haven't done any shadow work, you have beliefs that you picked up because of things that happened to you in a kid. Stuff can also be in your DNA, literally from your ancestors. And if you are watching this video and you are on the spiritual path, guess what? You are a generational trauma breaker, whether you realize it or not. You were chosen because you are strong enough to break this trauma. Often when we get on the spiritual path and we don't know why we're called to it, it's because we are here to break karma. We're here to clear patterns. We're here to change the DNA of our ancestors. And when you change the DNA and the frequency, not only are you changing the DNA for your kids, you might not even have kids. I don't have kids and I'm not planning on having it. Any just got my dogs, so I'm changing their DNA, but you're also changing the past for your ancestors. You're also, because all time is happening now and you are energetically connected to them. When you do clear these generational patterns, you are healing your lineage. So sometimes we can't stay in the timeline because we haven't done the healing work. And so we don't have the belief systems, we don't have the vibrational frequency, we don't have the identity of the person who deserves to have what we want. So there are a number of reasons why you might have touched a timeline, you got a glimpse of what you desire, and you weren't able to stay on it because your soul had a different plan. There are things in your soul contract, there are things that you wanted to learn, there's a version of you that you wanted to become. And this is why some people manifest things really early in their lives, and that can be karma. And sometimes I'm thinking of like child stars or whatever, they could get what they want. And sometimes other areas come crashing down around them. Their lives fall apart, even if they have the fame and the fortune. It's because they didn't have these other things fully to live on that timeline on all levels. They might have been able to manifest the money or manifest the job or whatever, but if their identity, their belief systems, their frequency, the feeling of how they feel, they're not going to have the desired life on all levels. But there are versions of reality where they've done healing work and they're able to be rich and famous and happy and have all the things. So this might also be happening for you. That's what I realized. I touched so many things early in my life that I felt like should have manifested, and now they're starting to, and some of them really have. But life was calling me on this longer journey to actually become this version of me that could hold it. Meaning, become the version of me that could be with my soulmate. If I was with my husband 15 years ago, I don't think we would have lasted this version of me because I had so many limiting beliefs. I had so much trauma. I don't know why I'm putting that in quotes, but because now I'm not bothered by it. But I had stuff that happened in my childhood. I had past life stuff, ancestor stuff that I had not healed. So even though I met the guy at the right time or I met him early, I don't think our relationship would be what it was now. And I'm so grateful that life took me on other timelines that seemed wrong, but these timelines were actually teaching me about vibrational frequency so that if I was in a relationship with my soulmate early on, I could actually be in the frequency of a loving soulmate relationship versus being with him and we fight all the time. Life pulled me to learn about limiting beliefs so that I could clear stuff for my ancestors and also clear stuff for myself so that I could learn more about how to be the version of me that is less triggered and is happier, and that I could believe more things about myself in reality and have greater experiences. Life pulled me in different directions so I could know who I wasn't, so I could build the identity of the version of me that is this person now, so that I could match the identity of the version of me that was, on some level, living in my dream timeline. So if you're feeling like you were on the right timeline and you went off, it's really important to think that maybe your soul chose this. I actually think now, as much as I'd like to say that I wish from my early 20s I had all these things, the version of me that I am so grateful that my soul chose to go through these lessons because now I know about quantum jumping. I didn't know about quantum jumping back then. Now I know about healing generational trauma. Now I know about shadow work. Now I know more about spiritual paths and karma. And because of my plant medicine ceremonies, I've seen so many things. I've turned on my spiritual gifts. Like there's a version of me that is on that timeline that maybe never went down the spiritual path, but she doesn't have certain gifts that I have now that I had a desire to have and I didn't even know. Because the things that your soul desires, yes, it's can be the money and the relationship and the home, but our souls also have desires for other things. So sometimes they take us on this path that seems like we don't know what's happening, but when you look back, you can see that it was teaching you to be able to hold the frequency of the timeline you wanted. That life and the universe was teaching you to clear limiting beliefs so you could fully know who you were. You could know your power. You could believe you were worthy. You could realize, you know what's really cool about limiting beliefs is when you realize one, when you change your beliefs, you can literally see reality change. That's part of why I think I wanted to feel like I had no belief in myself and no belief in certain things, and then learn that flipping beliefs could change my reality. So there might be something on your path right now that you're like, I want to be on this timeline. I think I'm doing all the quantum jumping work. And you probably, maybe you are. It's having the desire, making the decision, finding out what's not in alignment, where the gap is between this version of you and that version of you, clearing and collapsing, letting go of things, holding the identity, assuming the new reality. Then the next step is stabilization, where you're stabilized in the reality, even though nothing's changed yet, and then reality flips. But if you're in any one of these phases and you feel like you've been in there too long and it's taking too long, ask yourself that what could you, another higher version of you, be trying to teach yourself about what you're going through now? I was making content briefly and making videos like 10, 15 years ago. And I had a couple opportunities that I used to regret because I was working with a couple different groups of people where we got some funding. One person, we even had someone attached that had been in a bunch of movies that were big like 15 years ago. And their agent wanted us to make the show about them. And because of a bunch of reasons, egos involved, things fell apart. There was things that I look back and I go, if that had worked, I would be here in my career. If that had worked, it would mean this about me. And I used to have these like bad feelings that I somehow got off the wrong timeline. I made the wrong decisions. I was around people that vibrationally helped that timeline collapse. I don't want to blame other people for what happened because I was a vibrational match to those situations, but I was also a vibrational match to the opportunities. But it kept being like these opportunities kept not happening. And I had to realize that the videos I was making, we were writing our own stuff, we were filming our own stuff. it was absolutely not the creative voice I have now. So while it would have been really cool to have like a hit web series with a star, and who knows what I would be doing now on that timeline, I'm sure I'm doing something very different. But I also wouldn't have gone down this deep spiritual path, and I wouldn't have the authentic spiritual voice that I have. I wouldn't be making the content. I wouldn't be making this video. I wouldn't be making spiritual comedy videos, because that I would be a different version of me. And I think that I was trying to teach myself to find my voice, because I was also surrounded by a lot of other people that I was just like yes-anding what everyone else said. And so if you're in a period in your life where you're like, why don't I have the soulmate? Why don't I have the dream career? I think I'm doing the quantum leaping work. I'm following the desire. I'm changing. I'm getting clear on the gap. I'm shifting my identity. I'm shifting my vibrational frequency. I'm shifting my beliefs. Pause and ask yourself, what would a higher version of you be asking you to learn about the timeline that you're on? That once you master it, it's gonna make you a different you, and you're gonna take that you into the timeline, because that's like an even more powerful you. So you're still gonna quantum jump to the reality where the version of you already has the thing, but when you quantum jump, you're bringing a piece of you now, and you do merge with them. They're already doing the thing, and they do have a different identity and vibrational frequency and belief systems, but you merge with them. So you're bringing like a special sauce into that reality, which is actually morphing that reality. If I hadn't quantum jumped to this timeline and I was still in Sherman Oaks going through whatever I was going through, and there's a version of me that still is, and I'm sending her love, the version of me that lives in Orange County, that is like, was still married to my soulmate, would still be living and was having a great life. I know that because I kept having dreams about the life. But I think that me coming to this reality, I spiced her up a bit, because I brought things from that reality that I thought were painful, but they were making me become who I am. They were making me a cooler version of the timeline I jumped to. And she would have been fine without me, probably. I mean, she was living a great life. But it's like you're bringing more juice, and you're co-creating a slightly different timeline and merging with the version of you that's doing cool stuff already. And you're bringing this like depth to the timeline. And there's some now I'm even thinking, because the version of you that's living your dream life is always communicating with you, they are probably actually like desiring you to jump, because I felt like the version of me that I merged with, I felt like she was literally like, hey, come over here, come over here, come over here. And I used to think that it was because she was saying like, hey, your life can be better. It's like when you do inner child healing and you want to heal a past version of yourself. I feel like our future parallel selves are wanting to do the same thing. They're wanting to help us. But now I even think she wanted me to bring everything that I learned on those other timelines to make her life even better, because everything is happening now and all versions of us are happening now. And when I heal my inner child, I've said this so many times, when I do inner child healing, when I do some NLP time technique, when I go back and change something in the past, when I take a bunch of mushrooms and I feel a shift and I feel that I changed the frequency of that timeline and I feel that I healed that version of me. And I feel that life is different for her because her awareness has shifted. That same day, I always feel this weird, eerie feeling of something else watching me. And I know that because I went back into the quantum field and I shifted something, it also shifted my future, my parallel timeline self. And I feel that that version of me is then healing me the way I healed this version. Because since I changed the past here, that also changed my future. So there are some things that you are learning, and they might be spiritual, they might be vibrational, they might be, like I said, clearing generational trauma, because that this version of you, you're going to make the timeline that you're jumping to even better for that version, even though their life is great and that's why you want to jump over there. But the importance of like I said, that I don't know if my husband and I would still be together. We would probably be together because we're soulmates. So there's a timeline where we got together when I was younger, like 15 years ago. And like, but it wouldn't be this beautiful relationship now. It would be harder because there was so much work on myself that I had to do. And there's so many things that I had to clear, and I was not ready to live on that timeline. So know that you are not taking any wrong turns, that there is depth that you wanted to get. What is life, yourself, a higher version of you trying to teach yourself about where you are right now? What are you gathering? What are you shifting? What are you changing for your ancestors? What thing did you put in your soul contract that you wanted to, I don't want to say overcome, that's not the right word, but it alchemize. There's things that you wanted to alchemize. What from your past lives did you want to clear? What did you want to get even stronger with? Because I could have been with my husband 15 years ago and I love him so much, it would have been okay. But now, because of the other relationships that I went through, the toxic one I shared in my last video, where I was just completely torn apart, but because of that, that set me on my spiritual path. And then the next big relationship I was in, where this guy took me to my first plant, he dragged me to my first ayahuasca ceremony. And being in that relationship on that timeline did so much for me to prepare me to be the best wife I can be for this guy that I love now. So sometimes I used to think, oh, I wish we'd been together longer. I love him so much. Why didn't I wake up before? Because there's a version of me that did wake up. But what I am bringing to this timeline and this version of reality and my relationship and my whole life now is different. So there's a reason why there's a period in your life that you touched that is calling you, because that's your highest timeline. If you can't stop thinking about it, if you really desire it, but you did not make any mistakes, you veered off, you didn't really veer off. Your soul had a plan to gather some things to become an even more in-depth, better version of you to bring to that timeline. So when you jump to that timeline, you're also activating the version of you that's already living there, and you're becoming like stronger and more powerful. And what I'm seeing in my mind is just like this, like, I had this ayahuasca ceremony where I like saw my higher self, and it was wild. You're becoming more, wish I could describe what I'm seeing in my mind. You're becoming the more vibrant version of you. You're becoming the more powerful version of you. You're becoming closer to your higher self by bringing what you brought to the new timeline. You're becoming the more activated, the more beautiful, the more powerful, the more lit up, the more you're just becoming more, and you're bringing that to the new timeline. So you're bringing a gift to your new timeline by what you're going through now. And once you get to the new timeline and you really have been there for a while, you will start to see the gifts of these side quests that you took, and it will make sense. If you desire something, it's because a parallel timeline version of you is already living it. It's just your job to match your identity, your vibrational frequency, and your belief systems with that reality. It's also your job to believe in that reality. Visit it every day on a daily basis. 90 seconds at a time, I like to use music. Visit that reality until that reality becomes more real to you than your current reality, and know that you are bringing something to it that is going to make that reality even better. You have the power. Remember, this timeline is optional. Much love.